Welcome to Missing the Mark, where we look for meaning in strange places. I'm Christopher. Today we're going to be looking at just how impressively wrong Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Sons of Martha, is. I say poem, but it's as much a short essay in poem form as it is a poem, and it's impressively wrong about both the scriptural story and about life and what makes life worth living. But since the story of Martha and Mary in the Gospel of Luke is only 5 sentences long, I'm going to read it first, just to refresh our memories about what the story is really about, before Kipling goes off a cliff with it. In the course of their journey, he came to a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. She had a sister called Mary, who sat down at the Lord's feet and listened to him speaking. Now Martha, who was distracted with all the serving, said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister is leaving me to do the serving all by myself? Please tell her to help me." But the Lord answered, "Martha, Martha," he said, "you worry and fret about so many things, and yet few are needed. Indeed, only one. It is Mary who has chosen the better part. It is not to be taken from her." Did everyone get that? Everyone who has ever entertained guests knows that you can keep things simple and spend time with your guests, or spend forever making sure your elaborate plans are all going perfectly and barely spend 5 minutes with them. And it's clear what Martha did, and how she was trying to make her sister share her mistaken priorities for getting the least important things right. Okay, so now Kipling's poem. The sons of Mary seldom bother, for they have inherited that good part. But the sons of Martha favor their mother of the careful soul and the troubled heart. And because she lost her temper once, and because she was rude to the Lord her guest, her sons must wait upon Mary's sons, world without end, reprieve, or rest. I'd be willing to chalk up the cause and effect to mere poetic license if it weren't for the way he's painting the sons of Martha as being oppressed by the sons of Mary. But there's no such oppression that goes on in the world. In fact, in reality, the oppression usually goes the other way. Those interested in philosophy, theology, art, history, literature, music, or other impractical things are always fine with things being simple. It's the practical people, jealous of the impractical people having any time for knowledge or thought, who want them to instead spend all their time endlessly caring about trivial stuff that doesn't matter. Wrap Christmas presents with bows and ribbons if that suits your artistic taste, but if you go around demanding that everyone spend hours wrapping Christmas presents just so, congratulations. You're one of the sons of Martha, ruining everyone's enjoyment of Christmas in your need to drag everyone down with you. It is their care in all the ages to take the buffet and cushion the shock. It is their care that the gear engages. It is their care that the switches lock. It is their care that the wheels run truly. It is their care to embark and entrain, tally, transport, and deliver duly the sons of Mary by land and main. This is directly contrary to common experience. The people who worry about everything going right never make things more comfortable for the people around them. They make life miserable for the people around them. They spread as much worry and care as they can, and everyone else generally has the sneaking suspicion that this is to make the worrier feel important and powerful. In fact, the people who worry too much usually invent hypothetical buffets and shocks, because there aren't enough real ones for everyone else to feel. Moreover, the sort of people who have to make sure that the party goes just right don't generally care all that much about keeping gears and springs in working order. The people who fuss over trivial things are exactly the people who don't pay enough attention to the things that do matter, about physical things as well as about spiritual things. It is possible he's misinterpreting the story of Martha and Mary to paint Martha as being careful about things that do matter. But if so, that's impressively stupid. And moreover, he's drawing a yet stupider lesson from it if he's concluding that caring about physical things that matter is antithetical to caring about spiritual things that matter. There is absolutely no reason to believe that the best workmen are soulless automata, and in fact experience generally runs counter to this idea. Whenever circumstances change, soulless flesh robots tend to fail almost as badly as soulless metal robots do. It is the man with curiosity and knowledge he didn't need who can adapt to new circumstances. And this is leaving aside the fact that work was made for man, not man for work. Even if soulless automata were the best workmen, what of it? If slaves are the most efficient workers, that doesn't make slavery good. Crushing men beneath economic productivity is a terrible goal, even if it could achieve its aims. And what is this nonsense about tally, transport, and deliver, the sons of Mary? Does Kipling really think that practical men don't travel? Plumbers never take the bus? Bus drivers never travel on roads? Really? They say to the mountains, be ye removed. They say to the lesser floods, be dry. Under their rods are the rocks reproved. They are not afraid of that which is high. Then do the hilltops shake to the summit. Then is the bed of the deep laid bare, that the sons of Mary may overcome it, pleasantly sleeping and unaware. Do they say this to the mountains and lesser floods with their gears and wheels? And once again, he blames the sons of Mary for everything. Do the bus drivers know in detail what work into making the road? Really? What about the sailors? Do they know in excruciating detail the labor that went into paving roads on mountains? Laborers are themselves interdependent, and everyone who serves is himself in turn served by others. Complaining that people who benefit from labor don't know the details of the labor is not only pointless, since it can only be otherwise if everyone is a self-sufficient mountain man, it's also self-defeating because the entire point of labor is to accomplish something. Having accomplished it, it need not be done again. Kipling equivocates in this poem between construction and maintenance, but here he's pretty unequivocally talking about construction, and the whole point of construction is that once you build it, it exists. You build a road out of stone rather than dust, so it doesn't have to be rebuilt the next day. Of course, most people won't personally experience the labor of having built the road. That's why people built it in the first place. They finger death at their gloves' end, where they piece and repiece the living wires. He rears against the gates they tend, they feed him hungry behind their fires. Early at dawn, ere men see clear, they stumble into his terrible stall, and hale him forth like a haltered steer, and goad and turn him till even fall. Given how many passengers have died in railway accidents, boats sinking, planes crashing, bridges falling, buildings collapsing, and so forth, I don't think that Kipling should be trying to paint one group as the only people who die. Also, and I'm going out on a limb here, maybe human life is worth something, and the Sons of Martha should put a little bit of effort into safety. I wonder who would spearhead that effort. Can't think of anyone. To these from birth is belief forbidden, from these till death is relief afar. They are concerned with matters hidden, under the earth-line their altars are. The secret fountains to follow up, waters withdrawn to restore the mouth, and gather the floods as in a cup, and pour them again at a city's drouth. No, belief is not forbidden to them. It is not forbidden to them in any way. Well, that's not quite true. Hate-filled secularists sometimes try to forbid belief to the Sons of Martha. Stalin and Mao tried, and I have no doubt that if he had any power, Richard Dawkins would try likewise. I don't know if he would murder as many people to do it, of course. Probably. But you never know what people will do until they have the opportunity. And this line is especially stupid because, in general, the sort of idiot who says something like, "To these from birth is belief forbidden," is also the sort of person who yells against the obligation to go to church. Yes, an obligation to go to church is unpleasant for the few who don't believe. I've misplaced my micro-violin, though, so the sad song of condolence will have to wait for later. Look, if life is a meaningless accident without purpose, and you're just the cleverest of the beasts that crawl the earth, having to go to church once a week is the least of your problems. But for the mass of men with loads of demands on their time, an obligation to go to church means that they get to go to church, despite all those demands. They may still be nameless as rich men like Kipling trod upon their backs, but they need not be soulless. An obligation to go to church means that for an hour each week, they get to be the equals of the rich men who don't know their names. They get to look up from the dirt and grease in which they live and see beauty, and be reminded that they matter more than the machines they maintain. Because let's be honest, Kipling doesn't care about the men. He loves the machines. He only cares about the men to the degree they approximate machines. This is a common theme I've noticed among a great many atheists. They don't really like people very much. They do not preach that their God will rouse them a little before the nuts work loose. They do not preach that his pity allows them to drop their job when they damn well choose. As in the thronged and the lighted ways, so in the dark and the desert they stand, wary and watchful all their days, that their brethren's ways may be long in the land. First, this is a bad interpretation of the story of Martha and Mary, since the point was about concentrating on what's important and not excluding it because of make-work social, not really obligations. And what's this rubbish about being roused before the nuts work loose? Instead of constantly tightening the nuts on whatever machine you're maintaining so you have no time for anything human, use locking nuts. Or Loctite. It's good stuff. Put some Loctite on the bolts and then take some time off. Granted, they didn't have Loctite in Kipling's time, but they did have the ability to put 2 nuts onto a bolt, which works wonders when keeping things tight. Seriously, keeping bolts tightened onto nuts doesn't require an army of soulless slaves forever toiling at tightening them. Learn a little bit about how to hold things together, do a good job, then maintain a reasonable work schedule. Kipling is actually lionizing the idea of work harder, not smarter. He is saying that the goal is to keep men laboring day and night with no moments to rest. This is just awful. And why are they standing in the dark in the desert? What good are they going to do in the dark? Use a light. And why bother standing in the desert? There's nothing there to guard. Maybe your machine wouldn't break down so often if you put it somewhere with less sand to clog up the gears. This whole thing is an ode to the sons of Martha being wasted like dirt on terrible designs and bad ideas. And, by the way, this is the flip side of his equivocation. Standing guard over things is not at all the same sort of activity as building them. If, for example, you're building a road, it's just fine for everyone to stop working, take a break, then start up again. In fact, it's often a great idea when people are so tired they can no longer work safely for them to take a break. They're much less likely to injure themselves or to make mistakes which are costly to repair. Raise ye the stone or cleave the wood to make a path more fair or flat. Lo, it is black already with the blood some son of Martha spilled for that. Not as a ladder from earth to heaven, not as a witness to any creed, but simple service simply given to his own kind in their common need. This gets back to the point I just made about how men who aren't worked to death do better work. Maybe if the men took time to rest, they wouldn't be injured as often as Kipling celebrates. But it's the second 2 lines of this stanza which are the really awful ones. Not as a ladder from earth to heaven. First, he has no way of knowing this. Many men do good work because taking part in the act of creation is good, and as such, it is a part of making themselves suitable for heaven. That being said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Kipling's idea of salvation was a 5-year-old's version. Adults don't believe that good works are worthless in themselves, but a ticket to a banquet located in the sky. This is, therefore, not an either-or. By contrast, if there is no God, there is no purpose to life and none of this actually has any meaning. I know atheists will whine all day long that life has the meaning we give it, but I am getting really sick of this lie. My and most people's favorite definition of reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. The meaning you give to life goes away the moment you stop believing in it. Also, plenty of great public works have been done as a witness to creeds. Granted, this isn't often the case of mere roads, but if you're taking this more literally, tons of churches and hospitals and gardens and libraries and schools and other things with paths were built as a witness to a creed. Probably most of the beautiful buildings in the world were built as a witness to a creed. And that claptrap about, but simple service simply given to his own kind in their common need. Come on! The people who build roads and bridges do so because they are paid. Last time I rode a train, I needed a ticket. I had to pay money for that ticket. The people who built the train didn't do this for the common need, they did it for their own private need, their need for a paycheck. There are some exceptions to this rule, though. During the Middle Ages, and I think into the Renaissance, a great deal of the labor that went into building churches was actually donated. And back then, and even in modern times, there are services you can actually get for free, given out merely because of need. Government services are not a good example of this because the people doing the work providing them are not being charitable, they're earning a paycheck. But you can find charity where even the workers are donating their time. Friars and monks and nuns will care for people and teach them, merely to give to their fellow men who are in need. And the sons of Mary smile and are blessed. They know the angels are on their side. They know in them is the grace confessed, and for them are the mercies multiplied. They sit at the feet, they hear the word, they see how truly the promise runs. They have cast their burden upon the Lord, and the Lord he lays it on Martha's sons. And so this disaster of a poem comes to a close as absurd as its opening. First, of course, Kipling is just making up his own version of the story of Martha and Mary. This reminds me of a line in one of Chesterton's Father Brown mysteries. When will people learn that it does no good to read your Bible unless you're reading everyone else's Bible too? All too often, people make up their own version of the Bible, usually in the form of asinine and unsupportable interpretations of some small part of the Bible in isolation from the rest. And certainly this is what Kipling was doing here. He's utterly missed the point of the story of Martha and Mary, made up his own idiotic point, and then wrote an entire poem criticizing how stupid his version is. And you see this all the time in biblical criticism. I don't know if it's the practical effect of sola scriptura, or if it's just that idiot's gonna idiot, or what, but this is an absurdly common phenomena, where somebody will criticize the Bible for saying things it doesn't, and no sane person has ever thought it did. Here's the thing about the real story of Martha and Mary. I mean the one that didn't go away when Kipling stopped believing in it. Martha could have passed out some bread, handed out cups of wine, and been done in 5 minutes. That would have worked. No one would have died. Instead, she was busy taking care of all sorts of things that would have been fine if she didn't do them. Why do people try to generalize that to things that wouldn't have been fine to leave undone? In a completely different place in the Gospels, Jesus asked, "Who among you who, having 100 sheep and having lost one, wouldn't leave the other 99 and go looking for it?" He didn't say, "Who among you, having 100 sheep, wouldn't forget all about them and just go hang out at the temple all day while somebody else did all the work for you?" Why is it such a popular pastime to interpret the Bible in completely insane ways? How did people ever come up with the cardinal rule of exegesis being, never consider any passage in reference to any other passage, or to the entire book it's in, or to the entire Bible, or to Christian tradition, or even to basic sanity? How can a person get to a state where the only way they can find biblical interpretation tolerable is by pretending that they're a psychotic moron when they do it? That's all for now. Until next time, may you hit everything you aim at.